All right, let me share some bad news with you. Home prices and home sales continue to decrease. I know that's not a big shock, but it's good to know this information. The Case-Shiller 20-City Price Index has shown that there is continued decrease in the amount of sales. It's the fifth straight month of declining sales. And that's the 37% decrease year over year. So it's a big drop from last year to this year. And there's 3 straight months of pricing declines. 1.2% was the last figure of decline from the previous month. Now let's take a look at this data though and talk a little bit more about it. First thing to know is that this is only 20 cities. This is not representative of every single market. It's just a sample of the overall market. There's actually still some markets where they're seeing price increases. The other thing to know is that the law of supply and demand is still heavily at work here because inventory is still incredibly low. So there's a lot of borrowers out there with pent-up demand that want to get into a house, and they're simply waiting for a slight decrease of interest rates. Anytime the rates have decreased, do you know what we've seen? We've seen a big increase in mortgage applications. And we anticipate that 2023 is not going to see a continued rise of interest rates. If anything, it's going to stay the same or go down. And even if things stay the same, borrowers get used to that. That becomes their new reality, and they're going to get back in the market and write offers on homes and get accepted offers. So even though things seeming to not seem great, it's still a great opportunity out there for those that are going to put the work in. Work with your borrowers, talk to sellers, get their homes on the market, and things will still sell for top dollar. All right, let's talk about title insurance. Now, your buyers, when they get a loan estimate, are going to see 2 different types of title insurance, a lender's policy and an owner's policy. Now, a lot of buyers have questions of what does this actually cover? Who is it covering? And who pays for it? Is it required? Let's talk about this. Now, title insurance is different from other insurances because other insurances cover what might happen in the future, whereas title insurance covers things that might have happened in the past that were incorrectly or improperly recorded. Things such as back taxes, liens, conflicting wills, or restrictive covenants that actually might reduce the value or the enjoyment of the property. Now, let's talk about the differences between a lender's policy versus an owner policy. Let's talk about who does it protect. Well, protection for a lender's policy protects the lender, the mortgage company, in the event of financial loss because of one of these things that were improperly recorded. Whereas the owner's policy covers the owner for any loss that they might have, including the equity they gain on the property. Now, how long do these policies last? Well, the lender's policy lasts for the duration of however long it takes for the borrower to pay off the loan. Once the loan is paid off, that policy ends. Whereas the owner's policy, that covers for the duration that the owner and or their heirs have an interest in that property. Now, is it required? A lender's policy is going to be required if you have a mortgage because you have a lender on that, they're going to require there's a lender policy. Whereas an owner's policy is optional, but it's a very great idea that you actually get an owner's policy. Now, what's the cost? Well, there's no standard amount of the cost, but on a lender's policy, it's based on the loan amount, whereas the owner's policy is based on the purchase price. So there's some information for you on the differences between a lender's policy and an owner's policy, and hopefully that helps you understand the loan estimates and the closing disclosures that you see when you're working with your clients.
Okay, rates. So this week, San Francisco Federal Reserve Bank, they let us know that it's probably going to stick around this rate range till 24. They said that 11 months plus would not be unreasonable. Let's see what happens, okay? Okay, there's a segment out there of realtors and loan officers that do both sides of the transaction. Well, great news this week. You can now do those on FHA loans. Now, we're gonna cautiously watch this because we're gonna receive updates that will let us know if this continues and how it'll change. But for right now, it's great news because realtors that are also loan officers can do both sides of that transaction.